Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wonder Series. The Wonder Series is our monthly forum here at Living Healthy List, where we encourage you to think outside the box and wonder what would life be like if you did things differently, if you thought about things differently, and overall just did things in a different way than you were used to. So this is a safe place for you to ask questions, to listen, to pay attention, to just kind of wonder and really kind of figure out what you could do differently to upgrade your life so you can live that healthy, happy lifestyle that you have been dreaming of. For those of you who don't know me, I am Denise Stegall. I am the co-founder, CEO, and curator, which is really just a really fancy word for editor of Living Healthy List, because we want to make sure that we are giving you the most honorable, reliable, and trustworthy information so you can make really good educated decisions on your own. And of course, if you need some help, we're here for you too. So with this crazy summer that we have, I bet you're wondering, now that summer's here and it's really here, camps are closed, what do we do with the kids? Travel plans are all canceled, aren't they? I know we can't go visit our friends and family in Canada or in Europe. They're not letting us in. So we have this great big country here. What are we going to do? So today I'm really excited. We are going to be talking with 3 of our Living Healthy List experts to really figure out, what it is, what can we do differently this summer? What are those outside of the box, outdoor fun ideas that they have that they will share with us? So today I am joined by Annette Palilka, Luann Beekler, and Sandy Haddock. And you can see all of us have some interesting background. I have a kind of a boring one. Sandy's looks like she's in a wonderful place. Annette's outside. And Luann looks like she's in her office. So ladies, if you would, Annette, Luann, and Sandy, if you would just quickly tell us who you are, what you do, where you are, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, my name is Annette Palilka. I am an environmentalist and an adventurer. I spent the last 20 years protecting the environment in a regulatory, nonprofit, etc. Lots of plastics in the ocean and plastic pollution kind of issues. And I'm also a life coach who happens to love nature. And so one of my big things is that I'm all about empowering women to feel strong in their bodies and their minds when they're outdoors, because it ultimately translates into everything else that we do in life, whether it's in the boardroom, at home, even with friends. Those kinds of skills come up everywhere. And I am based in Lake Tahoe, California.
Wonderful. Looks beautiful there today.
I like it. Hi, everybody. Luann Beekler. My company is PMC Events and Coaching. I do events around personal and professional development and life and business coaching. In the sense of today's conversation, I'm going to share with you how I am a wilderness spiritual guide. And so look forward to that conversation. And this is a representation of the outdoors that I love so much.
Wonderful. Thanks, Luann. And Miss Sandy.
Yes, hi, good morning. I'm Sandy Haddock. I'm owner of Dreams Are Forever Travel. I am your travel concierge. I help people plan and enjoy a vacation. We don't want you just to have a trip. We want you to have a vacation experience. And that's really what I strive to do, is fit a vacation to a solo person, a couple, or a family versus fitting them into a vacation. Customized travel plans to suit your needs at no additional cost. And today my background is lovely, actually Colorado, a beautiful resort there. And I will give you more information later about some domestic travel.
Sounds wonderful. Ladies, thank you for joining us. Those of you, Leanne and Michelle and Letitia, and for those of you who will be watching later, thank you for joining us and participating. We want this to be a conversation, so if you have questions, each of our speakers will do about a 10-minute hate to say presentation, but they'll give us their thoughts and tips and strategies for about 10 minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A after each speaker. And then at the end, let's open it up again for questions that that may have come up during the conversation. So without further ado, Annette, I'm going to have you start and give us some tips and thoughts and ideas about outdoor fun. Outside the box, outdoor fun.
Yeah, so I thought that would be good to start with, since we are in the age of COVID, to start with what it means to recreate responsibly. And then I'll get into some of my other tips. But know before you go, check the status of the place that you want to visit. If it's closed, then, don't go. And if it's crowded, have a backup plan. Of course, we are practicing physical distancing, so keep your group size small, be prepared to cover your nose and your mouth, give other people space. It's not just about you. I have a hiking buddy, and she actually prefers 10 feet distance. And I do it because it makes her feel better and it makes her feel safe. Plan ahead, know that facilities might be closed. Pack a lunch, go to the bathroom before you leave the house, play it safe, slow down, and choose a lower risk activity. This is not a time to be really stretching yourself in terms of, it's not a time to stress yourself. Rescue operations should be focused on other things right now, and explore locally. And a lot of what I'm about to talk about is about that local presence. And lastly is leave no trace. Whatever you bring with you, take it back with you. We've been seeing so many face masks on the ground and, garbage, on trails or on the street. So, what you bring in is what you bring out, regardless of where you go. So I wanted to start with starting small. Sometimes it's just about starting and getting outdoors. Of course, you want to talk to your doctor and make sure that you are okay. And once you have that, just start with a walk around the block. There's no reason to, sometimes I feel, and I'm guilty of this too, where I compare myself around these people on Instagram and I'm like, oh my goodness. And that doesn't matter. That is out the window. It's like, you are who you are and you start where you are and, start small. So take a walk around the block. It is more important to show up, a little bit every day more consistently than having that one big walk once a week, on Saturday or on Sunday, whatnot. It's a really, and it builds up your self-esteem as well in terms of having that consistency. And when you're starting locally, you might find, and I mean, let me know if you have experienced this, but you start to see the neighbors more and then you wave. And that feels nice. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that person was there. Or, oh, Joanne's granddaughter is visiting, or, whatnot. And that also builds up a sense of community. It builds up, even though we're physically distancing, we're still socially interacting. And I feel that especially during this time, that is so important to still have that emotional connection with the people in our lives and the people around us.
I agree. It's interesting. In my neighborhood, we live in we're kind of in a neighborhood, but not like a typical neighborhood. And just going through the other day, I was actually driving through my neighborhood to go for a walk because we've got a couple of really beautiful trails. I actually noticed that one of my neighbors, who actually happens to be with us here today, Miss Latifah, I noticed that she, I had gone by a few times and hadn't seen her van. And so I texted her, I'm just saying, hey, I was thinking about you, driven by a few times, haven't seen you, is all okay? And, I honestly, I kind of got concerned because I hadn't seen her. And I think you're right. If we pay attention to what's going on in our own communities, that really does give us a sense of community, a sense of purpose, and a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there are ways of having that sense of belonging and that sense of community, even if you don't necessarily have it built in right now. And so some of the things that I coach around is, how do you find a walking buddy? How do you feel safe? You know, that's a big thing that comes up, is this feeling safe thing. And so I get it. You know, I live in an environment with bears. I actually wake up early so that I can look outside and see if I can see bears. And, you know, when you feel safe physically, you know, that really makes a world of a difference. And so I invite people to, you know, before you go for your walk, you know, it's like, maybe you want to drive that route. You know, maybe if there's like an incline that you're not, you know, or that maybe you've always driven on that incline, and then once you start walking on it, you're like, oh, this is sort of tough. You know, hills can be tough. You know, so making sure that your physical environment is supportive of what you want to achieve that day, and of course being prepared. So I was a Girl Scout. I was a Ukrainian Eagle Scout, which I eventually learned that Eagle Scouts are only for boys in American Girl Scouts. And I think that I was like, what? Like, girls want to tie knots and build stuff too. Anyway.
I think they're changing that. They're trying to incorporate some of that in there now. I agree, because I was a Girl Scout.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. But, you know, in terms of being prepared, you know, maybe bring a light jacket with you. Make sure that you're wearing sunscreen. You know, like, I wear sunscreen every day, you know, because one, we're protecting our skin, but we're also protecting our overall health, right? Bring water. Sometimes what I'll do, if I go running, is I will leave a water bottle in one location. So let's say I walk half a mile, I leave my water bottle there, and then I do the rest of my walk. And then I know that at that point I have, you know, whether electrolytes, I really like the brand Noon, that, you know, so it's like a healthier version of Gatorade, because I think Gatorade has a lot of sugar in it. And so that you're ultimately setting yourself up for success. And so one of the things that I actually do is I have a walking group, is that every Wednesday, and anyone is welcome to join. So if you're interested, you know, just reach out. And so every Wednesday we go for 30 minutes, and it's a nice way to just connect with other people. People call in from all over the place. You know, I had a friend from Switzerland, and, you know, from the South and from the East and from the North. And so I vary the times every week because everyone has a different schedule. You know, the heat is different in different places at different times. So I try to accommodate that. And that's one more thing. And I know that we'll be heading on to the next person soon, but also in terms of the preparation and the safety, is to be aware of what heat wave and heat stroke feels like, you know, so that if you're starting to, you know, if you're starting to feel dizzy, and if your body temperature is increasing, and you're starting to feel nauseous, and maybe you have a rapid but a weak pulse, you know, so those are signs of heat exhaustion. And when that gets elevated, that pulse is no longer weak, but it's really strong. You know, and your skin is red and hot and dry, and your body temperature is really hot, over 100 degrees, you know, like, that's when you call 911. But being aware in terms of always checking in on how you're feeling is critical. You know, it's like, okay, is it too hot? This, that. I thought it was going to be cooler, but wow, it's 12 o'clock or it's 11 o'clock. You know, and I've had the beginning signs of heat exhaustion on a hike once. And I will tell you that was one of the scariest experiences of my life. So just being aware and being prepared, and knowing how far you're going, letting someone know where you're going, how long, when you'll be back, are good practices, whether you're just in the neighborhood or if you're going on a longer walk. And so back to the start small. And as you get stronger, as you figure it out, as you have more walking buddies, you know, you can go further, farther, higher. But the most important thing is to get out there and to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, and you just mentioned about the heat stroke and the heat
wave or exhaustion.
Exhaustion. Thank you. I know, I'm pretty sure you have a document someplace where you can share with people. If you would put a link to that, that would be great. If you put that into the chat. Also, how people can find your walking group, because I know that is really a great thing. It's sometimes, you know, just to get out of the house. To do it on your own, it's kind of hard. But if you have a group, even if it's a virtual group, it's really important.
Yeah, it is. Just briefly is that in terms of getting out of the house, like sometimes it is hard. And so what I've done is actually I'm running a mile a day for 40 days until my 40th birthday. And I've invited all my communities to join me. And so you're still welcome to, because I haven't turned 40 yet. I still have a couple of more days. And it's just a really nice way to, one, have an excuse to get out of the house. You know, like I'll be the first to admit that sometimes it's nice to not put on a bra. And then I'll also admit that sometimes I feel fantastic when I come back, right? And so I have a whole Facebook group around that, and I'm going to have a mini program after I turn 40. So if anyone's interested, I'll share that information too, because it's all about getting outdoors and having fun. And yeah.
I'm excited. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Anybody have questions, comments for Annette? Okay. Sure, something will pop up. I mean, I know I always have a million questions, but we'll get back to that later. Let me see. We are going to then give the floor to Miss Leanne. Sorry, I'm looking at Leanne, who's in the middle of my screen. Luann, who's at the top over here. Miss Luann Beekler.
Hi, I love that, Annette. Thanks for sharing. I failed to say when I introduced myself where I'm at. And I am in Rochester, Minnesota, where Denise is as well. And I just love my state of Minnesota. Absolutely love Minnesota. Don't want to live anywhere else on the planet but Minnesota. I'll come visit y'all anywhere you live. But I often have thought about how little we explore our own backyards. How little we often explore our own backyards. We're off to other countries, other cultures, other places. We're getting on airplanes, and that's just not safe right now. And so, wherever you are on the planet, I'm going to encourage you to explore your own backyard. What's right in your neighborhood, your state? We have bluff country in southern Minnesota. We have scenic byways to drive. We're on the Mississippi River. You can go to the beginning of the Mississippi River up in Itasca. And then, of course, my favorite place on the planet is the Boundary Waters Canoe Area. You know, Minnesota is the land of, well, they say 10,000 lakes, but it's more like 15,000 lakes. And a lot of those are up in the Boundary Waters Canoe Area that runs along the Canadian border and the state of Minnesota. And so my sister and I take women into the Boundary Waters Canoe Area. We call them transformational treks. It didn't quite fit in my nameplate. I was trying to sneak it in there so everyone could see. And frankly, it's because we want to go. It's the honest truth. We want to go, and we know lots of women go, that would be cool, and they think it's too hard. So I want you to know that our trips are not Boundary Waters Survivor, okay? We're not there to push people beyond their limits. In fact, my sister's mission is to make sure anyone who wants to go gets to go and experience it. And so we're able to adjust our trips accordingly to the abilities of the individuals that come with us. And I'm telling you right now, in the times of COVID, there is no safer place on the planet than the wilderness, right? Get away from other people. In the Boundary Waters, they only allow a certain number of permits for the number of campsites they have. You don't pre-reserve a campsite based on the number of permits. They assume everybody will find one. You need to stay on the campsites and not try and make your own campsites. And they only allow those permits for up to 9 people. And we keep our groups to 8 or less. My sister and I are 2 of those, so we really only take 6 women with us into the wilderness. So very small group for social distancing, and we're social distancing from the planet by going out into the wilderness and experiencing that. And I'll tell you what people find actually the most challenging when they come with us is the silence. It is the silence. There are no city noises, no cars, nothing else. And so the sheer silence of the wilderness, they're like, ooh, this is kind of freaky. because they're not used to it. But I find it a very spiritual place to go. So my father raised us going to the Boundary Waters canoe area. I have four brothers. Actually, they all got to go. And finally, my sisters and I went, wait a minute, like we want to go too. And he said, all right, well, prove to me that you can do it. And I had to carry a canoe up and down the street and walk the block to show him that I could do it. Anyway, and if I can carry a canoe, anybody can. That's what I just want to say. And they are designed, by the way, I'm 4'11", and they are designed to balance. My sister and I'd rather carry a canoe than a 60-pound pack because the 60-pound pack can tip me over like a turtle, but the canoe is balanced purposely when you put it on your shoulders. And anyway, so we had to prove that to my dad. So my sister never stopped going. She goes every single year. I tell people I traded my tent in for a hotel room when I went to hotel school. And then I went back when my father-in-law passed away because he wanted his ashes spread there. And I fell in love again. And I was like, oh my gosh, why did I ever stop doing this? And so now we make sure we go at least a couple of times every year and take some other women with us. And what I also didn't share earlier, as a part of my life coaching and my business coaching, I teach a tool called the passion test, which is not a test. It's a process of helping people to identify their top 5 passions and set a course to living those in their life. So we literally do this work in the wilderness. Last year, all the ladies were sitting in their swimming suits on a rock, bathing in the sun. I'm taking them through this personal development process to find their top 5 passions. And one of the ladies yells, "Eagle." And I spread my arms like this, and I looked up at the sky, and this eagle was like 8 feet over my head. Full wingspan, just gorgeous. It was the most amazing experience. I'll never forget it. That's what you get when you go into the wilderness. Get away from all this stress in our world. Get away from the COVID and the other people and the politics and all of it. And just go be with you. So we call it a journey of you, or joy, to go into the wilderness and explore yourself with 6 other supportive women who are there, and see that you can, and you do have the ability, the skill, the power to carry those packs, to get through the wilderness. I was telling Denise, one of the things is to see how joyful you can be with so little. So little. And talk about leave no trace in it. We take everything in that we need, we carry it wherever we go, and we bring it all back out. Garbage and everything all comes back out with us, so that you don't know that your packs still get lighter because you've eaten some of the food. You're still carrying that garbage back out. It's about leave no trace and keep our wilderness a wilderness. So I got on a roll there, Denise, and now I think I'm done. Do you got a question for me?
I love it. No, we love listening to you. I always, your little phrase that we talk about Luann is she's a little spark, and she truly is. And when she gets on a roll telling a story, you can see the passion. Like, she gets so excited, and the spark that's in her eye. It always amazes me, and I'm going, I should really go on that trek with Luann. And to be quite honest, I'm scared to death because I'm from New York. I mean, when I moved to Minnesota, almost 18 years ago, to this day, when my husband's not here at home, it's so quiet that it's eerie. And so when you were saying, you go up there and it's even more quiet, I almost can't imagine that. So it's intriguing to me.
The stars are so amazing too. You would be surprised. You think that you've seen beautiful starry nights, but until you're completely free of any kind of light from any city whatsoever, it's a totally different experience. And I'll just lay there on a rock or a log and just look up at the stars. So amazing.
So for people who are thinking, okay, we've never done this before, maybe this is something, our family would like to try. How do you even go about that? I mean, truly, I know I would call you and say, how do I do this? So how do people go about getting up to the boundary waters, doing it appropriately, getting the permits and all of that.
So always go through an outfitter. Start there, especially if you have absolutely no experience. And frankly, I wouldn't tell anyone to go alone the first time. If you don't have any experience, bring someone who has experience, which is why, we have that experience so that we can show other women. And we've had women who've come with us who then go, my boyfriend and I are going to do this. Like, we can do this. We saw what you ladies did. We can handle this. So most people get everything they need through an outfitter. You go to an outfitter, and they can give you a fishing license, the permit for going into the wilderness. We get those in advance, though, by the way. You call in advance and say, this is when we want to come, we need a permit, and then you pay when you get there. If you're going to rent from the outfitters, they'll take some kind of deposit up front, and they have all the gear. They can gear you up with everything that you need if that's what you want to do. So we provide that on our trips. We own most of the gear that we need. Every once in a while, we'll need to rent an extra canoe or a pack or something like that. But by and large, we provide everything from the sleeping mats, tents, sleeping bags, to all the food, everything that you need. So there is an art in bringing food in there that really tastes good. Although everything tastes better in the wilderness, I'll tell you that. Because I had some of those things left over and made them at home, and I go, how did we even eat this? But and my sisters come up with some simple things too, food-wise, that you don't have to buy those dehydrated things. Like, in place of having bread, we bring tortillas. And you can make any sandwich in a tortilla. We even do peanut butter and jelly in a little tortilla roll up, and it's delicious, and lots of protein, and those things will last. And we're so used to, that's another thing, we're so used to refrigeration. We think that everything has to be refrigerated, but frankly, we take fresh eggs in those hard plastic containers that you can buy at the camp stores, and we have eggs the whole week. We might add some of the powdered eggs with it, so a little combination to stretch it further. And we have cheese. It's not refrigerated at all. They have what they call bear barrels, which are plastic packs that have a steel closure on the top. Supposedly the bears can't get in it. Annette, you buying that? I could tell lots of stories around that. We have fun stories.
And that doesn't look like she's buying the bear pack.
But we used to, when I was a kid, we hung our packs in the trees, and that was supposed to keep them away from the bears. And then recently someone said, yeah, like, bears can't climb? Like, what are you thinking, people? Now their theory is that the bears are smart enough to know exactly the trees you're even going to hang your packs in, right? They figured it out. And so these bear barrels, you're supposed to set opposite your tents, like hide them in the woods opposite your tents so they're not near you. So if a bear would come after your bear barrel full of food, that it's not anywhere near the people. Now, in the 15, 20 years, whatever years that we've been going up to the boundary waters, we experienced a bear in our camp once, and that was when I was a child, and Dad had hung the packs. He decided on that trip that bears couldn't swim, and we were on an island, so he didn't hang them very high. Of course bears can swim. What kind of thought process was that? Otherwise, we see them in the distance, not up close. Like, they probably come closer to Annette's house than they would typically come to us in the wilderness. We see moose. We see them again at a distance most often. And they're as respectful as us. Like, I think they're probably sitting in the woods watching us go across a portage and wait for us to leave before they cross the path, because they don't want to be around us either,
So I have to say, Luann, I don't believe that moose exist, because I have been to places in this country, like plenty, where there's supposed to be moose. You're supposed to see the moose, from a distance. I've yet to see them. We were in Alaska a handful of years ago, and everybody kept telling me about, like, the moose. They saw all these big moose, and they saw the baby moose. I was there for 10 days, not one. So I still don't believe that they actually exist.
So Lauren just said, I get excited to see a squirrel or a bunny. I guess I have to get out more.
Come
Yes,
to
Lauren,
my
please
house. We've
do
got
come
plenty
on
of
our
those.
trip with us. Please do come on a trip with us. And you know, one of the other awesome things we love up there is swimming in those clear lakes. Now, you can't see to the bottom like you might think of in a clear lake, but they are clear water, you know, because they're deep and so there's dark bottoms, so you don't really see to the bottom. But we just love swimming up there, and that so people, that's another thing women worry about. Oh, there's no shower. We swim in the lake every day, and we use biodegradable soap. The same thing on our body and on our hair called Dr. Bonner, and things like that, you know. So it's so much fun to see again how little you can actually live with and really be in joy. And in the spiritual realm of the wilderness, oh, that was the other quick story I wanted to tell. So I began to look deeper into the wilderness and think, how amazing is the ecosystems that surround us? Like, we know so little. And when I say we, I mean me. There are people that know deep information about those woods that I don't know. I get it, right? There are specialists in every field that know deep information, but I just look at them in total awe of how it continues to replenish itself. Uh, I often see like little hobbit visions, you know, and fairy gardens around me, and I'm like, wow, like I'm living in a fairy garden. So this one time we were on the edge of just leaving or we were headed back to the outfitters, and other people were coming out, and literally it was a little busy on the portage. And so this mom and dad and little girl were waiting for their turn to get on the portage and go deeper into the wilderness. And she did not look happy at all. And I said, it's like a fairy garden. And her ears perked up and she sat up. She's like, I have a fairy garden. I'm like, sweetie, just imagine your trip. You're living in a fairy garden the whole time. And she was so excited. And her dad looked at me and he went, you just changed the mood of our entire trip. It was so cute. It's a special
awesome.
moment that I could help that little girl go, this is going to be fun, instead of, oh my God, what are we getting into? So
I love that story.
It's an amazing story, amazing journey. I think everyone ought to try it once. Not everyone's going to go back every year like my sister and I, but just to experience and know that you could survive in the wilderness if you needed to, and what it's like is just awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Luann. I'll open the floor. Comments, questions. I know Annette, you and Luann have so much in common. It's amazing. It's interesting because I know you both from different different places in my life, but it's amazing how you really do have so much in common. So I'll open the floor for a few minutes.
I just wanted to second what Luann was saying. I haven't been in the Boundary Waters, but I've been to Quetico, north of the Boundary Waters, so that's on the Canadian side. And oh my goodness, like as soon as you started talking about it, I mean, I don't know if you saw, but like I just sparked up. So if I'm not backpacking, it's like canoeing takes me to such a beautiful and special place. And it's like not about the mileage, it's not about the distance, you know, all of that. I mean, yeah, there's type 2 fun, and I'll, you know, explain that. It's just being out there and the sound of the silence and just the paddle. It's magic. It's magic. Like, you don't need drugs, you just need to get out there. And, you know, I mean, it's magic. And I loved how you described the fairy garden.
And yeah. You know, and it is a bit of work, right? Paddling and hiking through the woods with your stuff. But so come evening, you're just exhausted, you know, so don't worry about being able to sleep on the ground in a tent. You're exhausted, you know. And okay, I bring my little pack of essential oils as well. That is my first aid kit. The ladies were mad one year. They're like, what is this brick? It is so heavy. It's just a little bag. In fact, it's one from a airplane, from a first class little kit that they give you on an airplane. And I filled it with my oils, and boy, were they happy that I had some of those oils for some of their pains, aches, and pains. So I take those kinds of things with me and add to the experience of the journey. I did want to speak to Quantico. Quantico is on the Canadian side, and the difference is that in the Boundary Waters canoe area, they have literally a open, what do I want to call it, box toilet seat in the woods. So there is a seat to sit on. My friend went with us on our first journey, and her biggest fear was that she wouldn't be able to use toilet paper. Well, in the Boundary Waters canoe area, you can, because they have what would look like a porta potty with no walls, okay? And it's always 40 or 50 feet away from the campsites. You go on a tiny little hike to use the facilities. But in the Quantico, they don't have those. In the Quantico, it's literally dig a hole and bury it. And so a little more strenuous, a little more advanced wilderness gal goes into the Quantico than the Boundary Waters. The Boundary Waters is a better first start, I believe. I have not been in the Quantico. My sister and her family go every year, but I have not ventured to the other side. And it's just the road less traveled, right? The Boundary Waters isn't that busy, although we do see people and we meet people. My sister's like me, and she's got it. By the time she's done, I'm like, do you know who their insurance agent is? You asked them so many questions. So when we do run across someone, we get to know them. But in the Quantico, you just most likely will not interact with anyone else at all.
And I'm also going to talk to anyone about peeing in the wilderness, because that's like, I mean, it's a thing. I pee in the wilderness all the time. And I use a Kula cloth, which is basically a fancy pee rag. And ultimately, it's one thing if you do like a drip dry every once in a while, that's fine. But, you know, women are designed differently than men. And so keeping feminine hygiene is really important. So so I'm a big fan of it, and I'll include a link if anyone's interested in a Kula cloth, where you basically it's nice for wiping, and it's a pretty design, and it clips so that the people behind you aren't looking at your pee rag while you're backpacking. But I'm a really big fan of it, and obviously all of that is really important in terms of keeping up your physical health while on the trail or on the canoe or just in general, obviously.
I love it. This is so fun. So just I'm going to interject my quick little story. A couple of years ago, my husband Mark, my stepdaughter, his brother, who was 69 and a half, because they wouldn't let him go if he was 70, because we'd have to go on a different trip. And two of his daughters, we went whitewater rafting in down the Colorado River. And I have to tell you, before that, I had been camping one time when I was a Girl Scout. So that was a long time ago. And so I was scared to death, but excited. But I got to tell you, the thing that I remember the most, and this was an amazing trip, I have never been so dirty in my life, even being in and out of the water. But you know what? We had so much fun, and it was such a unique experience that it was okay. Seriously, my hair was back in a ponytail, like matted with, it was fine. And talking to Luann and Annette today is making me think, you know what, it's time for another one of those trips. So thank you. So we're going to change gears a little. So now we've been out in the wilderness, and Annette's still out in the wilderness. By the way, check Annette's Facebook page, because she's always taking some amazing pictures of her hikes. The other day she was at a waterfall up in Tahoe area. So truly, I mean, it's just amazing. And every time I look at those photos, I think I've really got to get it out of Rochester. So, but without any further ado, let's change gears and go to our dear friend Sandy, who is our travel agent extraordinaire, who has some really great ideas. Since we're not traveling out and about of the country, some great ideas right here at home or close to home, wherever home may be.
Thanks, Denise. Yes, I wanted to expand a little bit on what Annette had said earlier about just what to expect in general. I'm going to expand into trains, planes, and automobiles. No matter how you plan to travel, you know, pack your face covering, check the CDC website, check your destination guidelines. If you are traveling by vehicle, any of the states that you're traveling through, you're going to want to know their guidelines. So if you do have to make a stop and get out, that you know what's expected. And I feel the most important thing you have to pack is your patience, because things are going to take longer, no matter how you spin it. It's going to take so much longer. You know, there's health screenings, temperature screenings, that sort of thing, even in hotel lobbies, as an example. So pack your patience, you're gonna need them. A great way to travel right now, and a lot of people are jumping on board, is traveling by train. You know, it's a great way to see the US, and there's definitely decreased capacity. So every other row people are in. You can also, I don't know how many people travel by train, but you can also be in a roomette, which is your own space that's got walls and a door. So you really can be away from people and still enjoy traveling. They've got vacation packages. The national parks is really huge by train. There's coast to coast, there's city escapes, you can customize. There's just so many different options with train. So I would highly encourage people to get out and see the US by train. It's absolutely amazing. One of my favorites is to do the East Coast. One year my family flew out to Washington, DC, saw DC, traveled by train to New York, saw New York, traveled by train to Boston. It's really inexpensive, and it was a great experience. Another way to travel these days is a lot of people are renting RVs. Maybe you don't feel comfortable driving in your car and going to stay at a hotel, but you can rent an RV, know that it's been completely sanitized, and it's, you know, it's your home, it's your traveling home. So don't discount that. Again, with the national parks, there's lots of campgrounds and such open throughout the United States. Again, check those guidelines, but plenty of places to park an RV. So many different beautiful sights to see throughout the US. As Annette and Luann both were talking about camping, throw your tent in the back of the car. Go explore. You'll find somewhere, and if you don't, there's always, rest areas are open. You know, if you didn't plan ahead, there's always places to just stay along and still feel safe. If maybe camping, maybe being out in the wilderness, maybe you're a little bit like me, don't necessarily love getting dirty and making the river my shower for the day. I more prefer glamping, and there is a company that has you glamping. They're in the Grand Canyon, they're in Moab, they're in Yellowstone, Glacier, Zion, the Great Smoky Mountains, and Mount Rushmore. And it's honestly, it's a luxury tent, and you can get different types of tents. You can even have a stargazer where it's open over top of you, but you have a bed in there, you have organic bath products, you have daily housekeeping. They have a guest experience coordinator to make sure that you are getting the type of experience you want with a little bit more upgraded amenities, let's say. So that's still a great way to visit the parks, even if you don't really like camping. Another great one, and we've been, as a travel community, selling a lot of dude ranches, because again, you know, you're in small groups. It's not like a big resort. These dude ranches, you know, some of them are small, as in 10 people capacity, but you're still outdoors and you're getting an amazing experience. One of my favorites is Concho Hills, which is south of Albuquerque, New Mexico. They're following all guidelines. They're doing their health checks. They're sanitizing everything, but you're riding horses out in open land. You're having a cookout, you're having songs around the fire. You're doing all of these outdoor things while being safe. So Dude Ranch is another really great way to travel these days and to visit. Accommodations, there are luxury resorts. I was telling Denise earlier, I feel like those people who normally go outside of the United States, maybe go to an all-inclusive or something, spend their money outside the US, that luxury resorts and dude ranches are a great experience for those people. Again, you can be out in a resort in the middle of nowhere, have upgraded amenities, and still go out for your daily hike, and still be safe, social distance, wearing face coverings while you're inside, and still getting like culinary arts. And these resorts really, they go all out to give you an experience anyway, and you combine that with the outdoors, it's perfect. Here in Minnesota, that's where I am, is Rochester, Minnesota, along with Denise, and we love going to the North Shore. Bluefin Bay Resort up north, they have complimentary bikes, they have guided hikes. You swim right in the Great Lakes. Go to Wisconsin, Sheboygan, you've got Lake Michigan right in front of you. And you can take a ferry. It's another experience. There's so many people that live here that have never taken a ferry from Wisconsin to Michigan. I've done that several times already this summer. Is people were like, I didn't even know that existed. Well, let's give you a new experience, because it's about the experience. So, we have the Black Hills of South Dakota just west of us. So there's, like Luann was saying earlier, just get out and explore your own backyard. There's so many beautiful places to go. You just have to, like Annette said, plan far enough in advance to know how to travel safely and to know how to travel comfortably for you and your family. So those are some of my tips and some great places to enjoy domestically.
I have a question, Sandy. Sandy, how far does the travel agent like yourself go in booking some of those things, like the glamping trips and the dude ranches? Do you have access to book that for me in your travel business? Because I never thought about that. I always think of those European trips and those other big things that I would use a travel professional for, and I don't think of those smaller things. And they're not smaller. They're just
That's
different.
a really great question, Luann. And yes, as long as I have a supplier for it, I do it. And all of these things that I mentioned, other than throwing your tent in the car and going to someplace to camp that way, a travel agent can handle. Yes, the glamping as an example, it's one particular supplier that does a great job renting RVs. We've realized that during coronavirus, COVID-19, that we've kind of had to shift our business model, and suppliers have been wonderful for that, because they're experiencing the same thing. So we have partnered, we have a way to vet them, and are confident in booking. So thank you for that question. Yes, we do.
Pipe in?
Yes.
So are you aware of these experiences still available? Because I know for certain things like parks and whatever, you really need to book like a year out. And I imagine people who have those reservations from a year out are still mostly going, since they are a little bit safer kind of experience. Like, are you aware of things that are available currently?
Yes, and it really, you're absolutely right. It depends on the park. It might be just outside of the park, or it might be, squeezing in certain dates. It really depends on where you want to go and how you want your accommodations to look. I'm still booking people in August. I just booked one yesterday for the Grand Tetons. No problem. Availability. Yeah.
Do you have a website where you like post some things, some ideas and things that are still available?
I actually ask people to reach out to me so I know I can craft what it is they want.
Yeah. But for those of us lacking in imagination, it would help to see some options.
This actually, it would be a good thing just to connect, you know, just to talk, because I think one of the things that Sandy booked an amazing trip for me a couple of years ago to Bordeaux. And, you know, the conversation that we had ahead of time, she had some ideas that didn't even cross my mind, and sent me to places that, like, when we got there, I was like, wait a minute, where are we having a private tour? Wow. Because I think a lot of times, you know, we have an idea as to what we like, or, you know, we think we know what we like, or we've been when we do some exploring on the internet, because the internet is good for looking, not for booking.
Good job, Denise.
Talking to a travel professional, they have so much more information. They've gone to the places that they talk about. What do they call them? Fam trips. Yep. So there are a lot of those where they really get to experience the area, the resorts, and the whole experience. So I would definitely recommend to anybody who's interested in, you know, doing something out, you know, kind of like outside your normal comfort zone. Definitely pick up the phone, you know, chat with Sandy. What other comments, questions? This is always so fun. I love this part.
Absolutely agree. And I hope you can hear me because my box isn't lighting up.
Yep.
You know, that travel professionals often, or have been lately, getting ignored, and everyone thinks they can do it on the internet. And the reality is that their expertise, their knowledge way beyond what we think we know and what you'll find on the internet, and then they're going to back you up. They're going to back you up if something goes awry, where none of those online sites are going to do that. So really important, if you're going to go outside your normal box, to have that professional behind you to support you in that journey and feel confident that it's all taken care of. So I got to emphasize that the internet is just for looking, and Sandy is for booking.
Thank you, Luann.
And I wanted to share that I went on a train.
You guys think we've heard that once or twice?
I went on a train across from Minnesota to Connecticut. My sister-in-law was like, I've never been on a plane and I'm not getting on one, and had agreed to go on an event with me. And I'm like, oh man. So, but I had to adopt the mindset, as Sandy said in the beginning, this is going to take longer. Relax, be patient. It's an adventure, and so no expectations. Let's just see what happens. And it was awesome. It was totally awesome to see the country that way and experience a train trip. So highly recommend that kind of a journey as well.
Yep. I think we have to remember too, when we're going away and we're actually going on vacation supposed to be relaxed. And you know, you guys that know me well know that, you know, Mark and I typically are gone, you know, at least 2 weeks out of the month. We travel quite a bit, mostly for his job, sometimes for mine, which is fun. And it's always amazing how we get to places and people are freaking out because they're, you know, it's taking too long for their bags to get there. And I know travel can be exhausting, but that's part of it. And if you kind of break, you know, kind of think about that ahead of time, you know, this is part of the experience. And this is another place where Sandy can come in handy with tips and suggestions. One, read her articles on Living Healthy List, because there's a lot of them that have just some suggestions. I know when I travel on a plane, I have earplugs, I have a mask, and okay, so maybe I might have a glass of wine before I go to sleep. I know if it's an overnight flight, and this is a suggestion that a travel agent friend of mine who I knew 20 years ago told me, if you're going to be traveling overnight, you know, the first thing that they want to do when you get on a plane is feed you some really horrible food. don't eat that horrible food. Okay, one, because it doesn't taste good and it's probably not very nutritious. And this is Denise, the health coach, coming in. But when, you know, before you get on the plane, have dinner, have a nice dinner, have a nice meal before you get on the plane. Then eye patch, earplugs, go to sleep. You would be amazed at how awesome you will feel when you get to your destination just by that one suggestion that a friend of mine gave me 20 years ago. So anybody else, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, can I jump in? I just want to thank you guys. This is super advantageous that I found this. I actually found your group through Annette and her Facebook. So I'm super stoked. And I was actually late to the group because I was in the middle of booking my permit for the Wild and Scenic Rogue River for a rafting trip in September. So I got 12 spaces for a rafting trip, and it's my first ever trip where I'm the trip leader. So I'm super stoked to be here, and I love what you guys are talking about. And lately what's occurred to me is that I want to make a living being a travel something. And I really see myself crafting unique road trip experiences for small groups. And then doing it as like a transformational experience, and I incorporating like shamanic aspects to it. Yes, and so really, I guess my question is for Luann and Sandy and everybody, but like, what, the first question is this, does this seem like something that is marketable or even marketable or valuable? And any suggestions? Like, I haven't started a website, I've got names, I got ideas, but kind of like, what's my first step? What's the next step? That's always my thing. Sometimes I miss, I'm so busy thinking 15 steps ahead that I miss the first step.
Well, I have to say, I think the first step is that really you're here talking to some professionals who this is what they do, this is what they love to do. So finding us, talking with Annette and Luann and with Sandy, and just having the idea and the passion, that is step one.
Right on, right on.
So, you know, and everything, I think, you know, definitely take some time to talk to these three ladies. Is it a marketable thing? Absolutely.
Put your information in the chat.
Okay, will do. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely, definitely. Join, and I know you're connected with Annette. Keep in touch with us at Living Healthy List on our Facebook group. If you put your email, I'll make sure that you get access to this call. Every month we do this one every month, the second Tuesday. And we have different topics, but it's always good to find that connection and that support.
Yeah, I was really floored when I saw the topic, and I was like, whoa, that's the universe talking to me. That's fantastic. So
that's great. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any last thoughts, comments before we have to pop off? Because I do try to keep this to an hour, and you guys know me, I can chat. Okay. Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll keep this open for a few minutes. If you guys want to copy the chat, if you go to the chat and open that up, there you'll see someplace on the bottom, there's a little box that has three little dots in the box. And there you can save the chat. If you hit save the chat, everything that people typed into that chat box will save to your computer. So you'll have the links that people shared, and you'll be able to connect with one another. Christy, I didn't put it in here, but we're Living Healthy List. You can Google us there. And the great thing is you have access to all of us that are here today. We're all part of Living Healthy List. So you've really tapped into an interesting community.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm stoked.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Luann.
I was going to add, I put the link in for transformationaltrek.com, which is our website. The wilderness canoe trip is what I was speaking about. There are other journeys on there that we take as well that are not as strenuous. So check it out and reach out to me if you'd like to learn more.
Yep, and those are all posted on Living Healthy List under the event section. For everybody who is part of Living Healthy List, whatever your event is, program is, you have something going on, make sure you send me an email with the information so we get it out there. And then every Monday, we make sure that our community knows what's going on. Okay.
I wanted to add on to what Leanne was saying just now, reminding everyone that this is a wonderful time in terms of like staying local, going deeper, exploring, even if it's within driving distance, like your car can go really far. And also along the lines of what she was saying in terms of we're capable of a lot more than we think. And it's really easy to say, oh, I can't do that. I've never done that, this, that. But you know what? I feel confident that everyone could go for a 5-mile walk right now. We are able, and it just takes a little bit of a desire. And the hardest part is that follow through. And it's an example of how we get to show up for ourselves. Because we also get to have fun. Just because COVID is here does not mean that we don't get to have fun.
No, we still get to have fun. Health, wellness, personal growth, and fun.
That's right.
That's it. Wonderful. I just want to read this because I know Letitia just did this. She did a 5K with her daughter and she never thought she could do it. And she did. She added to that. That was type 2 fun, Annette. So again, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoy these conversations. Please join us every second Tuesday of the month. We're always here. If you have thoughts, if you have ideas about topics that you want to talk about, let me know. We're here for you, and we always want to be that support system that you turn to and can rely on. So without any more additional questions, comments, I'm going to say thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Very good. Thanks, Annette, for connecting me with this group.